Imagine it being morning and you go downstairs, and instead of being completely stressed out because you have to deal with making everybody else's breakfast and getting them ready for school and work and all of the stuff and all you have to do is just take an AIP compliant breakfast out of the fridge or freezer and make it. And you have a beautiful, delicious, wonderful, nutrient-dense breakfast for yourself. Sound good? Well, if so, join me as we go through this Paleo and AIP compliant breakfast freezer session, where we'll make a series of breakfast items that you can either decide to keep out for the week and eat just throughout the week, or you can freeze them for later. The beauty of this, though, is that if you do put these in your freezer for later, you can do different sessions like this and then mix and match the different dishes and have a wide variety of things to eat at your fingertips in the morning that don't take long at all to thaw and reheat, and then you can just have so many different options instead of feeling like you are just bored and have nothing to eat. In this session, we'll be making sweet potato bowls, and we'll also be making two different kinds of breakfast sausages, a maple blueberry sausage, which is a favorite amongst all of my viewers and readers, a savory turkey breakfast sausage, a berry sauce, which goes great over all kinds of things like the sweet potato bowls, but also yogurt, over pancakes, just anything that you would want a kind of a sweeter sauce. And then a cinnamon tiger nut butter. This one will actually just go in the fridge as a condiment, but it lasts in the fridge for 2 weeks, and it is really, really delicious over various number of things as well. Sweet potato bowls, pancakes, over toast, any kind of thing that you would really kind of want any sort of nut butter. But tiger nuts are not nuts, and they are AIP compliant, so you can have them. And you can get the free PDF guide that has all of this stuff laid out in step-by-step format, along with the meal ideas and everything else, a shopping list, at the link below. But for now, why don't we go ahead and get the session started? The first step is to put the sweet potatoes in the oven. Preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and line a sheet pan with parchment paper for easy cleanup. Poke holes in several places in the sweet potatoes with a fork, and then place the sweet potatoes on a baking sheet. Put them in the oven and set a timer for 45 minutes. Step 2 will be to start the berry sauce. You'll put either fresh or frozen mixed berries into a small saucepan with a 1/4 cup of water. Bring to a boil over medium-high heat, then turn the burner down to low and let the berries simmer. While waiting for it to boil, gather the ingredients you'll need for the sausages. Step 3 is to make the breakfast sausages. Line a sheet pan with parchment paper, and start first on the maple blueberry sausages. To a large bowl, add ground pork, or another ground meat of choice, maple syrup, dried sage, cinnamon, and sea salt. Mix the contents of the bowl well, then add fresh or frozen blueberries to the mixture and gently mix in. Form the mixture into 8 patties with your hands and place on one side of the sheet pan. Then you'll make the savory turkey sausage. In the bowl, add ground turkey or another ground meat of choice, ground sage, sea salt, dried thyme, garlic powder, dried oregano, and ground ginger. Mix the ingredients well, form into 8 patties, and put them on the other side of the sheet pan. And then put the sheet pan in the oven and set a timer for 15 minutes. Step 4 is to make the cinnamon tiger nut butter. You'll put Tigernut flour, cinnamon, and a pinch of sea salt into a small bowl and mix. If you have any clumps, break them apart with your fingers. Drizzle in avocado oil and mix well with a fork or spoon, and then add more oil as needed to get to a consistency that you desire. Add some honey or maple syrup to taste if desired as well. Transfer to a lidded jar or container and store in the fridge. Step 5 is to mash the berry sauce and freeze it. The berry sauce should be nice and soft by now, so turn the burner off and then, using the back of a fork, mash the berries and mix with the juices until it's a consistency that you like. Reserve any sauce you want to eat this week into a small jar, and then spoon the remaining berry sauce in an ice cube tray to freeze. Set the ice cube tray aside for a few minutes to cool before putting in the freezer. Step 6 is to remove the sausages from the oven. When the timer for the sausages go off, remove the sheet pan from the oven and check the sausages. If they are no longer pink in the middle, remove them from the oven and set them aside to cool. Step 7 is to check the sweet potatoes. When the sweet potato timer goes off, take the sweet potatoes out of the oven and using a fork, check to see if they're done. They're done if the fork easily pierces the flesh. Depending on the size of your sweet potatoes, you may have to put them back in for another 15 minutes. Step 8 is to prep the sausages for freezing. If you're freezing the sausages, you can either flash freeze the sausages by laying them out on a baking sheet, making sure to drain any fat first if you're using the same sheet you cooked on. Here, I'm just transferring them to the sheet I cooked the sweet potatoes on. If you don't have room in your freezer for a baking sheet, you can use a baking dish, or even a paper plate, and put them into the freezer. Once they're frozen, which is about 4 hours or so, you'll transfer them to a freezer-safe container or bag for long-term storage. Or you can lay the sausages out in a hard-bottomed freezer-safe container, then place a piece of parchment paper over that, and then put another layer of sausages over that. The idea with either of these methods is to make sure you'll be able to get one sausage out at a time, rather than to have to break off a sausage from a frozen clump. And then the last step is to mash the sweet potatoes and freeze them if you desire. First, carefully remove the peel and put the potatoes into a large bowl. It's best to wait until they've cooled, but I had to go pick up my kids, so I was kind of in a rush. Then, to make it a breakfast bowl, you can add any or all of the following: a banana or some maple syrup to add some sweetness, a scoop of collagen to add some protein, a bit of coconut oil or avocado oil to add some fat, and cinnamon and sea salt for additional flavor. Then mash with either a hand mixer like this, which is what I find easiest despite it not being the purest method of mashing potatoes, or you can use a potato masher. And if you like things really creamy, you can also add a little bit of milk of choice. And make sure everything is blended well. And then if you want to freeze it, you can use something like super cubes to freeze it into portions first. And if you don't have those, you can always use silicone muffin trays. A tip is also to add some toppings straight into the mash right now. Here I'm adding some raisins and some cinnamon Tigernut butter and then patting it all down with a spoon. Then when you thaw and reheat this, it'll be ready to go. You can also measure it out into portion sizes, which I like approximately 1.5 cups for this, and then place directly into a freezer-safe container or bag. If you use a bag, flatten it to take up the least amount of space in your freezer. And if you use glass containers, only fill them about 3/4 full to account for expansion. If you froze into molds first, once the items are frozen, you'll want to remove them from the molds and put into a freezer-safe container or bag. Just pop them out like ice cubes. The berry sauce thaws quickly from frozen in the microwave or in a saucepan. And the sweet potato bowls take a little bit longer when frozen this way. I prefer to thaw them overnight in the fridge and then reheat in the microwave or on the stove in the morning. But then you have a whole bunch of items for your freezer that you can take out and make whenever you need something. And here are some ideas. A sweet potato bowl with berry sauce and melted coconut butter, or a sweet potato bowl with sliced bananas and cinnamon Tigernut butter, or ready-to-go pots of sweet potato bowl with berry sauce and cinnamon Tigernut butter in one, or sliced frozen cherries and cinnamon Tigernut butter in the other. You could add a sausage to any of those, or you can add it to a simple braised chard. And another idea is to serve AIP pancakes with berry sauce, Tigernut butter, and a sausage. These are just a few ideas, but there are so many. Now you see how easy that was? I love using things like this for stocking up my freezer, my fridge, and my pantry. And it just makes life so much easier, especially when you're busy and stressed and just don't want to have to deal with all this kind of stuff. But what happens when you don't have anything stocked up and you need an easy meal idea right now? Well, check out this video for your 3 ideas for some easy paleo and AIP sheet pan meals. And remember, if you want the PDF for this session, linked below.